Good morning, thank you for joining. I will present findings from our mixed method study on artificial intelligence in the everyday life of younger school-age children in the Czech Republic. The core dataset is a large survey administered in May 2024 to grade 5 pupils with a total sample of N equals 2,209 children aged 9 to 12. Our main focus today is how children encounter the term AI, what they think AI is, and how they perceive its risks, because these mental models are highly relevant for designing realistic and age-appropriate AI literacy in primary education. AI has become part of children's digital environment in ways that are often invisible to them. Recommendations, filters, smart features, and now generative tools. Many pupils meet AI early, but usually without structured explanation. So they build their understanding from interfaces, media narratives, and peer talk. That creates two educational challenges. First, without a basic mental model, children may use AI tools without understanding why outputs can be wrong or biased. Second, without risk concepts, they may struggle with privacy, manipulation, scams, or misinformation. So the point of this study is not to test technical knowledge, but to map pupils' everyday concepts, misconceptions, and anxieties, so that schools can respond with instruction that is both developmentally appropriate and practically useful. For the purposes of this presentation, we adopt a broad European framing of AI as systems that can, to some extent, emulate human cognitive capacities such as learning, reasoning, or content generation. From an educational perspective, it is useful to distinguish A. Narrow weak AI, task-specific systems widely deployed in practice, B. General strong AI, AGI, which largely remains a theoretical construct, and C. Generative AI currently salient due to the production of texts and images. Importantly, children's experiences of AI are predominantly mediated through user interfaces and concrete products rather than through an understanding of underlying principles such as data, modeling, or algorithms. Artificial intelligence is increasingly integrated into the digital ecosystems that children routinely use, often through features that remain implicit to users. For example, content recommendation, personalization, smart automation, and generative tools. As a result, pupils encounter AI-related terms and phenomena relatively early, yet typically without a systematic curricular framework. This raises questions about the spontaneous mental models children develop, the misconceptions that may emerge, and the risk interpretations they attach to AI. Empirical evidence in this area is essential for designing developmentally appropriate AI literacy, supporting safe and responsible technology use, and informing curricular decision-making as well as teacher preparation. In the Czech context, however, AI topics are not yet systematically and consistently embedded in primary school teaching. Our overall aim is to map pupils' understanding of AI at the end of younger primary school age and to identify patterns relevant for educational design. We asked 5 core questions. Have pupils heard of AI, and where did they first encounter the term? What do they associate with AI, and how do they define it in their own words? Do they think AI is used today, and can they name concrete areas of use? Do they perceive AI as fallible? Can it make mistakes? Do they perceive AI as dangerous, and why? Together, these questions help us connect awareness, conceptualization, and risk perception, 3 dimensions that often diverge in children's everyday thinking. Methodologically, this was a multi-phase mixed method project. We began with exploratory focus groups, 6 groups with 47 pupils, to surface children's language, examples, and narratives. Those insights informed our item design, together with literature review, expert feedback, and a pilot questionnaire with AN equals 100. The main quantitative phase followed in May 2024, with AN equals 2,209, administered during informatics lessons. Finally, we are running a follow-up qualitative phase in 2025, including additional pupil focus groups and planned teacher interviews and focus groups. The logic is simple. The survey maps patterns at scale, and the qualitative work helps us explain why these patterns occur and how schools might respond. Here you can see the sample structure. Data were collected across 5 Czech regions, including the capital area, and with schools from different municipality sizes. Participation required parental consent. The total sample is 2,209 participants, and gender is nearly balanced: 1,110 boys and 1,099 girls. Age distribution reflects grade 5 typical variation. The largest group is 11-year-olds, followed by 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds. 9-year-olds are a small minority. We operationalised AI understanding in 3 complementary ways. First, simple awareness. Have you ever heard the term AI? Second, self-assessed understanding. Do you have an idea how AI works? Third, we used open-ended prompts where pupils defined AI in their own words and described their idea. This is crucial because self-report can overestimate understanding. For risk perception, we used a closed item. Could AI be dangerous? And then open-ended reasoning for both sides, why it could be dangerous and why it might not be dangerous. Most responses were nominal, yes/no/I don't know. So our analysis focused on distributions and group differences, while the open-ended data provided qualitative texture and codable categories. For the open-ended answers, we first cleaned and normalised responses, spelling variants, empty entries, and irrelevant content. Then we coded them into thematic categories. Quantitatively, we compared frequencies by gender and age. Results. Awareness of the term artificial intelligence is very high in our sample. 88.8% of pupils reported having heard of AI. Practically, this suggests that AI is already an established term for most grade 5 pupils, yet not entirely uniformly distributed. From an instructional perspective, it is therefore advisable to begin with an explicit shared clarification of the concept and to create participation opportunities for pupils with lower exposure or greater uncertainty. When we asked where pupils encountered the term AI, the dominant answer was the internet/web, reported by 62.9%. School and teachers came second at 39.5%, followed by television/radio at 32.3%. Family and friends were around 21% each. The key point is not that school is irrelevant. It is actually a substantial source, but that pupils' first exposure is primarily outside school. That is important because online and media contexts often present AI as either magic or threat, and rarely teach mechanisms or limits. This positions school in a very specific role, not as the first place pupils hear about AI, but as the place where they can stabilize concepts, correct misconceptions, and learn practical skills like verification and safe use. When asked, is AI used today? 88.5% answered yes. However, when we asked those pupils to name an area where AI is used, 56.4% provided vague or unspecified answers, and 11.7% left the response blank. Among the concrete categories, the most frequent are internet/online content, 9.4%, and mobile phones/apps, 6.1%. While other domains, education, industry, creative production, healthcare, etc., are mentioned considerably less often. This points to a gap between a general belief that AI is everywhere and the ability to identify realistic concrete instances. Content analysis of open-ended definitions indicates that children's mental models are predominantly organised around concrete carriers of AI, such as robots, computers, the internet, and chatbots, including explicit references to ChatGPT. Mechanistic elements, programming, algorithms, data, and learning appear less frequently. Overall, AI is more often conceptualized as an object or agent-like entity than as a process of data-driven modeling. The educational implication is the need for developmentally appropriate explanations of foundational principles: where AI runs, what types of data it uses, what it means to learn from data, and why outputs may be inaccurate or inappropriate. We then asked whether AI can make mistakes. Overall, 63.1% said yes, 15.3% said no, and 21.6% chose I don't know. Boys more often answered no, 17.9% compared to 12.6% among girls, while girls more often selected I don't know. Risk perception is even more striking. Overall, 76.3% of pupils answered that AI could be dangerous, and 23.7% said it could not. 78.5% of girls versus 74.1% of boys perceive AI as potentially dangerous. So even at the end of younger primary age, AI is not only a neutral technology label, it is already emotionally and morally charged for many pupils. The justifications for why AI could be dangerous are, to a considerable extent, vague. The largest category comprises responses without an explicit mechanism. For example, because it is dangerous, references to robots, accounting for 35.6%. More structured reasons include misuse by people, hacking, viruses, fraud, bullying, loss of control or takeover narratives, and privacy/identity/surveillance concerns. The I don't know category represents 11.5%. Other themes, technical failures, weapons/war, errors and poor advice, job loss, addiction/weakened thinking, and misinformation occur at lower frequencies. Overall, the pattern indicates that for many pupils, dangerousness functions as a general intuition rather than an explicitly articulated risk model. Gender comparisons reveal differences in prevailing mechanisms. Boys more frequently mention loss of control or takeover narratives and misuse by people, and they also more often refer to weapons and war. Girls more frequently highlight privacy or identity or surveillance and are more often represented in the vague other category. Discussion. In summary, AI is an established term for grade 5 pupils with high overall exposure and a strong contribution of out-of-school sources, especially the internet and media. Children's mental models are largely anthropomorphic or device-mediated, and less frequently include mechanistic elements such as data, learning, and algorithms. At the same time, perceived risk is pronounced, yet it is not consistently accompanied by explicit causal explanations. Preliminary qualitative insights from the follow-up phase suggest that chatbot experiences, notably perceived errors and incorrect answers, reinforce perceptions of fallibility, while media and fictional narratives contribute to loss of control concerns. Taken together, this profile points to a need for instruction that supports conceptual understanding and addresses realistic risk. Conclusion and implications for primary education. To close, I will highlight implications. For primary AI education, the priority is not tool training, but mental model building, what AI is and is not, where it runs, what it uses as input, and why it can be wrong. Second, AI literacy should be integrated with data and safety literacy, privacy, account security, manipulation and scams, and simple routines for verifying outputs. Third, we should address anxieties directly. Move pupils from evil AI narratives to realistic risks and concrete prevention strategies, which is also empowering. Fourth, teacher preparation is essential, both content knowledge and age-appropriate pedagogy. Limitations and next steps. In terms of limitations, our data are cross-sectional and rely on self-report and open-ended language. Coding choices also shape categories, and our sampling covers 5 regions rather than the entire country. Next, our ongoing qualitative phase will deepen explanations, include teacher perspectives, and inform the design and testing of educational interventions over time. Thank you. I'm happy to discuss questions. References.